Hey guys, it's Jasmine, and today we're going to make some soft and chewy white chocolate macadamia nut cookies. These cookies are super fluffy, they're very chewy and soft, and the macadamia nut adds a nice crunch to it. I love white chocolate, which is why this is one of my favorite cookies because they're very delicious. So let's get started. For the ingredients you will need, 1 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour, half a cup of finely shredded coconut flakes, half a cup of white chocolate chips, half a cup of macadamia nuts, 1 teaspoon baking soda, a pinch of salt, half a cup of soft and unsalted butter at room temperature, 3/4 cup of light brown sugar, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and 1 egg. Starting off, preheat your oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit, and now we're going to mix together the dry ingredients. So in a big bowl, I have some all-purpose flour. I'm going to add in the coconut flakes. Now the coconut flakes add a really nice flavor to it. Do not skip this step. You want to make sure they're very fine coconut flakes because you don't want them to be very lumpy inside of the cookie batter. If your coconut flakes are not fine enough, you could also pop them into a blender or just chop it up. So I'm going to add that into the flour. Now add in the baking soda and the salt. Now mix everything together. Now to make sure the baking soda and the coconut flakes are nice and evenly distributed throughout the flour. Once you're done, just set it aside. Next, we're going to work on the butter mixture. So I'm going to be using a stand mixer today, but feel free to use a hand mixer or do this by hand. I'm going to be using a paddle attachment today. And into the bowl, I'm going to add in the softened unsalted butter at room temperature. Also add in the light brown sugar. The brown sugar is what's going to make this cookie nice and chewy. And we're going to start beating this on medium speed until it becomes light and fluffy. Once this has been mixing for around a minute, I'm going to scrape down the paddle to make sure all of the butter and sugar are mixed together, and also scrape down the sides of the bowl. Now just put this back onto the machine and let it be on high speed for around another minute. The mixture is now pale and fluffy and a lot lighter in color. So again, I'm going to scrape down the paddle and the sides of the bowl. Now crack in 1 egg. Also pour in the vanilla extract and beat it for around 2 minutes. Now it is very important that you scrape down the sides of the bowl to make sure everything is nice and mixed in. Right now I'm going to add in the dry ingredients. Now put this back onto the machine and mix it on low speed so the flour doesn't go everywhere. And you do not want to overbeat this or it's going to be a very tough cookie. It is very important that you do not overmix the batter, because this is supposed to be a soft and chewy cookie. I'm going to mix it a little more by hand just to make sure that everything on the bottom of the bowl is mixed in. Now we're just going to set it aside for now. Now we're going to slightly chop up the macadamia nuts so they're not really big clumps inside of the cookie batter. I'm only using about half a cup today, but you can add more if you like. I'm just going to coarsely chop this. You don't want tiny bits of the nuts inside the cookie because you want to actually be able to taste it. I've coarsely chopped up the macadamia nuts, so now they're a lot smaller and they're not gigantic inside of the cookie. I'm going to grab a handful of the nuts and leave it behind, so I'm not going to actually put it into the cookie batter because I'm going to put this later on top of the cookie so you can actually tell that there are macadamia nuts inside of it. Add the rest of the nuts into the cookie batter. Also add in the white chocolate chips. So I have the chocolate chips that are the size that I like, so I'm not going to chop them up today. And again, we're going to leave a little bit behind to put onto the cookie later on. Next, we're going to fold the chocolate chips and the nuts into the cookie batter. And we're doing this by hand because you don't want the mixer to break up more of the white chocolate chips and more of the nuts. So fold it gently. Again, make sure you don't over mix it. You don't want a tough cookie. I have my cookie batter all ready to go. I have a baking tray lined with some parchment paper to make sure the cookie does not stick. And I have a mini ice cream scoop which I would be using to measure out the cookie batter to make sure each cookie is the same size. If you don't have a mini ice cream scoop, you could also just use a tablespoon to measure out the cookie because this mini ice cream scoop holds about a tablespoon of mixture. You want to leave about 1.5 inches between each cookie because we're going to be flattening out this later. Once I've scooped out all of the cookies, I'm going to flatten it with my fingers. If you find that the cookie batter is sticking to your fingers too much, you could dip it in a little bit of water. Since this is quite a lumpy dough, it might not get the shape that you want the first time, so you could go back and fix it with your fingers later. I scooped out half of the cookie dough. The tray is now full. I pressed it down with my fingers because they don't exactly spread too much. And now I'm going to top them with the nuts and the chocolate chips that I have left over earlier. And I'm going to just slightly chop up the white chocolate chips a little bit because I feel like they look a little better when they're smaller on top of the cookies. But of course, you don't have to do this step if you don't want to. I'm not chopping them up into too small bits because you want to be able to actually see it. Now I'm just going to arrange them onto the cookies and press them down slightly. You just want to add a couple of chocolate chips onto each cookie because you can see these ones look very bare and it just looks like a plain cookie. So you want to let people think that there's actually chocolate chips and nuts inside of this cookie. Don't add too much white chocolate chips now because we're still going to add on some more macadamia nuts later. So I need to think about that. I'm going to add on some nuts. You want to let it look as natural as you can. You don't want to make people think you actually put those nuts and chocolate chips over there. So try to just be random. This is what makes it look better later. Now we're going to place this into the oven preheated at 375 degrees Fahrenheit for 6 to 7 minutes. And you want to make sure you do not overcook this or it is going to become harder when this is supposed to be soft and chewy. And there is going to be a slight golden brown color on top. That's how you make soft and chewy white chocolate macadamia nut cookies. These cookies have baked in the oven at 375 degrees Fahrenheit for 5 to 6 minutes. You can rotate the pans midway to make sure they brown evenly. I have taken them out. It has a slight golden brown color. It is a little crispy on the outside, but nice and soft and chewy on the inside. These are very delicious. It is one of my favorite cookies, and I hope it could be yours as well. So, thanks for watching, and see you guys next time. Bye!